What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Best U Nation here live in multiple areas or multiple parts of the country today. We are super excited to be here. We have a special guest, Raleigh Keegan, country musician. Brand new song came out a couple weeks ago, and it is called Where You Are. We're super excited to have you on our show today here at the Best U Nation. And before we get going, we just want to bring you on and say hi, welcome. We want to share a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for having me.
And
For sure.
we definitely appreciate you taking time out of your schedule because, it's hard to link up. I think we were supposed to link up like a couple weeks back, but then we had like
tornado, man.
Weather and all that stuff. So
yeah, I was in a
fortunately, we can, have a conversation now a few weeks later. Can you just kind of give us like just a small little like breakdown of who you are and like why you love music?
Yeah, sure. So I was adopted when I was 4 days old. My birth mom had me when she was in prison. She was in for drug related charges, and I was adopted into an awesome, like really awesome family. They got me into music and everything. Like they got our first piano when I was 7, and they drove to Michigan from Cincinnati to go get this free piano and drove it back in a minivan. And my dad was a bus driver for 30 years. Mom was a nurse, 40 years.
Nice.
Yeah. She was a neonatal nurse, so you could relate a little bit to that. So, but and they got us involved in everything. And even as a little kid, like I kind of excelled at the piano more than my brother would. So they knew I had some form of like inclination to music. And all through school, I played sports and I played music too. I was like, this is random, but I was first chair in the state in jazz trombone in Ohio in high school, which makes no sense because I do country music. But but I was, and then I played football in college. I played at Georgetown, and got an exercise science degree. Met my wife, who introduced me to Zach Brown Band, which made me fall in love with country music. Sold our house to pay for my first album. Moved to Nashville, and it worked. And that is the short snippet of what has happened so far.
See, and what I love the most about the story, like obviously to us it's a story. This is a life for you,
Yeah.
right? And what I love most about it is I can never like criticize or critique anybody for taking a gamble on themselves. Taking a gamble on yourself is probably the most heart-wrenching, scary, terrifying, most rewarding, best feeling in the world. Like all of those things combined, it's like highs, lows, everything. And you did that. And there's something to be said about putting your money where your mouth is. Mm-hmm. And not only did you say, hey, I will pursue this, some way, somehow, you convinced your wife to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And second, you sold your house. You took everything and you said, all right, put it all on black. You made a gamble on yourself.
Yeah.
And it worked. And I think that like that is like the ultimate high in just the overall human experience. That's the ultimate high in just taking a gamble and actually going out and doing what you promised yourself to do. Because a lot of people say that they want to do it, but it's different when you say you want to do it and every single action is aligned in that decision. So like for me, I'm huge into mindset. Like, can you just kind of just break down like how has your mindset helped shape and like help you to take the chances and lead to your success like now?
Okay. So firstly, the way I'm made, the way God has made me is I'm just like an all or nothing person. I've always been that way. Like I have OCD too. Like I have actual, you know how people say like, I have OCD, like I actually have it. You know what I'm saying? so I'm very obsessive. I get addicted to video. I used to play this video game like 12 hours a day and I was so good at it because that's all I did. But when I was a kid. So that's kind of how I'm made, number one. So I became obsessed with country music, but like also I don't talk about this a lot on a lot of podcasts, but like, you know, my relationship with God has really formed a lot of my decisions, because I ultimately believe, I read this book called, y'all should check this out. It's called Just Do Something. And it's about Christians who believe that God is in control, but then because he's in control, they get stuck in decision making. Or they have a hard time knowing, hey, what is God's will for my life? Like, and they just get paralyzed in that. And this book kind of explained, kind of through some verses, like that you can't fail. You can choose what you want and believe that God is sovereign ultimately. So like, as long as it's not like harming me or the people, then I have the freedom to start a business if I want, or to do whatever, because ultimately I'm not the one that's sovereign, and ultimately he's going to take care of me. That doesn't mean he's going to bless my success. Like that's the thing. I also call it, bro, you act like it was like I had some awesome, I bet on myself and all that. Dude, I call it young naivety. I was passionate. I wasn't going to let nobody tell me I couldn't do it, like including my family. But like with my wife, the reason she got behind is because I put out a couple demos that worked. So she saw that I really caught the bug, and she saw that, dude, I was working like 12, 16-hour days trying to make this thing happen because I wanted it so bad. So she saw that. But in young naivety, we sold our house to pay for my first record. The odds of that working, I can't even tell you how low that is, truly.
Yeah.
And I call it young naivety because I just feel like God was kind to me, truly. People like Chris Stapleton can be in Nashville for 17 years and nobody cares about him. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
That's pretty crazy if you think about it. So the mindset behind it was really formed by my faith, but also I think a work ethic from my father, who I always saw busting his butt. Like, I think that was in me too, and honest to goodness, I think in every man, in every woman too, but in every man, there's this desire to kind of conquer and succeed and to really be great. Like, it's kind of the Michael Jordan, Kobe syndrome, where like really at the heart of them, I feel like those dudes wanted to be great. It was in them. You know what I'm saying? And so that was in me too. So I think that's, if that answers your question.
No, yeah. That says a lot about your character and your personality. The young naivety.
Naivety, is that how you would say it?
Yeah. No, yes, for sure. And I appreciate that because like at the end of the day, like a lot of people, they're naive and they just do random stuff, but you did it and then you aligned it with like your
sure
purpose. And I think I'm more impressed. I'm impressed by in two ways. One, I'm impressed at the fact that you did that, and then your wife was, supportive enough to take that.
She's the woman, man. She's special. She's great.
I will say. Oh no, go ahead.
No. Hey, no, that's how you.
I was just gonna say, like, I can only imagine. Like, I'm sure you had. I mean, there's like that young naivety, if we're gonna use that word. I'm sure there was like, if you could. Well, I'm gonna turn this into more like a let's dive back and take like a little flashback. Was there at any point in that time when you were like in the process of making this big decision? I mean, this is a life altering decision. Did you guys ever like sit down and whether it was on the couch, out on the porch, and you guys were just like, this is going to be, like, you guys had, like, how do I say this? You guys had the conversation and the doubts, are we really going to do this? Like, did you guys ever have that moment where you're just like, are we actually going to go through this? And, like, did she ever say, no, Raleigh, we should probably not do this? Or did she all the way, and you maybe question yourself? Like, I'm looking for more like in that moment, in that time when you were getting ready to do this, did you have doubts?
Yes.
Did you have that fear that you were going to, like, you were going to be homeless?
Absolutely.
Like, this isn't going to work?
Absolutely.
Can you talk about it?
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. So the one moment that kind of stands out to me is when we sold our house. We were living in Lexington, Kentucky, and we had made the decision. She had gotten behind it, and we hadn't moved yet. We had put all of our stuff except one guitar that was in our kitchen into the truck to move. And I remember us both sitting there and just weeping because we had no idea what we were getting into. We both, she's seen me cry twice. I probably cried three. I probably cry more than she thinks. What I consider crying is less, I'm talking about sobbing, you know what I'm saying? And the reason is because all of my best friends, her best friends were in Lexington. You know, we were really secure, had a great friend group. We had it going on, dude. We were loving life. It was awesome, you know? And here I was, a personal trainer who just had this insatiable desire to do music. I just couldn't stop it. But in just that moment of everything's gone and we're really doing this, we're both sitting on the floor in the kitchen floor, and we're just crying. And I'm just looking at this guitar over to my left, and it has one string is broken, and it was just really an interesting picture. It was a really interesting picture there because it was like, I don't know, maybe it was like a foreshadowing of the road to come, but of course we had doubts and over the years, man, it's like she's had to keep me going a lot. You know, this has not been all sunshine and roses. We talked about this earlier. When I say I've been to the lowest points of depression and anxiety about this, I've killed myself working myself. God has disciplined me, and I've had to learn a lot throughout the years. But she's been there. I mean, she's had to just see me go through hell a lot to make this work, you know, and she's been supportive. But dude, the doubts are real. The doubts are still there, dude. Like, can I keep this going? Can I, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the thing about the human journey is you take 5 feet forward, and then you're standing there and you wonder, is it possible that I could keep going? You know, there's really no guarantee of anything. So it's kind of navigating those. And to your point earlier, Adler, you know, we have the freedom to chase after a dream. I think it would have been a lot different, especially in this country. Like, people take that for granted. We really do take that for granted. That is, in human history, you know, that it's an odd thing to chase after a dream that you just want. Like, in human history, that is incredibly rare. Even in America, it's rare. I couldn't have done this if I had 4 kids. Because I'm obligated to them. True. Let's be serious. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we live in a crazy country that does allow that. But yeah, that's what we did. And then to say that if anybody doesn't have any doubts in this, they're just not honest. They're lying.
Right. Well, and so, like, listening to how you kind of described it, like sitting on the kitchen floor and you guys are weeping and looking at like the guitar and everything. Like, to a lesser degree, I kind of had like a situation like that when COVID first started. I remember telling Finn, hey, we could do the podcast, but, you know, I'm feeling this call to get out and to travel, and I want to get into travel nursing. And this was in January. And I think by the end of February, like, we heard about COVID, but it was like, oh yeah, it's never gonna like get over here. Like, that's over on that side of the world, you know. Like, everyone kind of dismissive of it. And then, you know, being on assignment, and then all of a sudden, you know, hearing that, hey, it's hitting the country. We're on lockdowns and all this stuff. There was a point in time where I kind of sat back and I said, is this really what I want to do? Like, is this like, if I go this route, I'm going to face this all alone.
Mm.
And I remember thinking, I was like, God, if this is something I'm meant to do, then I need you to create a way. And I remember just kind of just having this overwhelming, crippling fear. My mom, she calls me and she's like, you need to come back home. You need to stay here. You need to work from home. You can do that and be just comfortable. And I decided right then and there that in order to live the life that I envisioned for myself, the hard truth is I'm going to have to do a lot of uncomfortable things in order to get to that spot. And before I get to that spot, I'm going to have to work. I'm going to have to be committed, and I'm going to have to go through an emotional roller coaster, and just I'm going to have to stick with it. And right then and there, I kind of made a promise to myself. I actually wrote out a contract. I've shown Finn this. I wrote out a contract for myself, and I wrote, like, for the next 5 years, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And then I'm going to travel. I'm going to explore the country at the same time, but I'm going to do these things. And just kind of just commit to it and not back down, no matter how crappy things get or how scary things get. And when you were describing your whole entire process to move out there to Nashville, it brought me back to that headspace. I remember thinking to myself, like, man, like, I don't know if I could do this. And like I've had multiple doubts where I'm just like, I should just go back home. I should just go back home. But the one thing I knew for a fact is, as you said earlier, is just try. You know, worst case scenario, if this is not meant for you, then you can always go back home. Home is always going to be there. You know, you're going to always have the comfort of your friends and family and stuff, but you need to actually put yourself out there. And I mean, that says that speaks volumes of like who you are as a person. And like I think we discussed this off air. Unfortunately, life is about hard truths. It's not about just positivity all the time and just blindly following things and following trends. It's about understanding that, yeah, this is a truth that sucks, but this is the reality of it. And finding that small morsel of positivity in that hard truth, in that negative space. And like, I guess like my question to you now is, when it comes to positivity, how do you keep yourself going? How do you keep yourself like blocking out like a lot of the negativity in the world and negativity that surrounds like you?
Yeah, this is this is something that I actively struggle with. I'll be honest with you. I actively struggle with it. But like, I think it's gotten much better over the years. When I first started, okay, little background. I took a personality test, and out of a room of 100 people, I'm more competitive than 98 of them. Michael Jordan is a 99, just to give you an idea. Okay.
Okay.
And so I'm very competitive, incredibly competitive. So that means I've had a very hard time over the years thinking that I deserved to have more success than I was getting, because I assumed that life is fair, and I assumed that I deserved something. But what's funny about that is my worldview. I don't. That's not true at all about my worldview. I don't think I deserve a thing. Like, but I was actively living as if that was true. Over the past even months, y'all, like I've had to really come to grips with you, Raleigh. You realize it's a gift that you get to do any of this. Like, it's a gift. You get to express yourself. It is ridiculous that you get to do music for a living. That is such a gift. That's ridiculous. Even that. So. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, as somebody who actually listens to country music on a daily, I will. It's kind of funny because Adler has seen some tastes of this, but I have written my own songs. I don't sing very well. I have played trombone. I can relate to you on that. I went to all county band. I didn't care for country until 2012, but just to highlight, like, someone who listens to country music, and I followed you on Instagram many years ago. It's probably a couple years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago. And I remember listening to, oh, man, hold on. I have it in my music. It's Half Past You. So 2019, Half Past You, and then Something in the Whiskey. So 2019 is when I started listening to your music, and I have them on my phone. It's just great, like knowing somebody who does this for a living, right? There are people I know. We have a fireman friend of ours who went to, you probably may have heard of him or seen him. He was, he's a fireman here locally. He went to American Idol. And I thought that's a lifetime opportunity to go do that. You know, he couldn't talk about it. He had to be very shut down for it with it. You know, he couldn't talk about it. I thought he sounded phenomenal. And I'm not just saying that as a friend. He has a great voice, right? But then you have like Scotty McCreery, who gets on American Idol too, and he also sings just as great, and he makes a career out of it. So it's like what you're saying is everybody has an opportunity, right? Everybody has, yes, God has a plan for everybody. And if you want something bad enough and you want it, like, I guess everybody doesn't have your OCD. If you're going to be competitive, not everyone has your OCD, but you also have something that you have that's going to allow you to, what's the best way of saying this? You didn't doubt your own self, even though there were doubts. And so because of that, your gift, it has allowed you to have an opportunity to be where you are today, to be able to play music for a living, to have this as a career.
Yeah.
I told myself I wanted to be a professional soccer player. And I grew up in Germany, like one of the most powerhouse nations of soccer, or
Wow.
Fußball, if you want to be proper.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I wanted to do, but I'm not there.
Yeah.
But I'm not mad about it. I'm not bummed out about it. I'm not like, oh, I should have been a soccer player. Like, no, it wasn't meant to be. But I'm sorry, I just wanted to add that. As somebody who listens to country music and hearing you speak about that, like your realization. I don't know. I mean, we're not in Florida Georgia Lions or Luke Bryan's head saying, hey, I'm thankful that I have all this. But we know that Raleigh is saying that. We know you have that mindset, and you're thinking, man, I really have an opportunity to do this every single day, dropping music and doing what I love. Like, that to me is just inspiring.
Yeah.
Like,
Also,
all the way.
I think I'm on the slow. One thing you just said made me want to say this friend of mine said, doubt your doubts and trust your God. I love that. But anyways, also.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful.
Trust your God.
But what were we just talking about? I hate that I lost my train of thought.
No, I stumped you. That's why. I'm sorry.
No, I don't know if you stumped me. I had some...
You were saying that you're able to wake up every day, basically.
Oh,
do country. Like, you're able to write music every single day.
I feel like I've been on the slow crawl journey of realizing that the end destination is not what makes someone happy. Like, even psychologists are coming out with studies that are, it's actually the upward climb, this slow upward climb that produces like dopamine and positive emotion for people. It's less of the actually when you get to the hilltop. And, you know, you see people talk about that all the time. Once I got money, all my problems started happening. And that's when I got depressed. And it's actually the slow climb and enjoying that. But it's so hard when you're competitive, and it's so hard when you're like, I want to win. Like, I want to be the best podcast ever. But really, it's like the best human experience is or the best musician ever. The best human experience is just doing what you love, it, repeating it, and getting better and better and better and better, and just enjoying that. But coming from a fallen race like we are, like, it's just tough to do. It's just tough to like do that, to be honest.
Well, yeah, for sure. And I mean, and this is something that Finn and I talk about all the time. It doesn't matter how big the podcast is. It doesn't matter how many streams we actually get. And it doesn't even matter if if anyone recognizes us as like a great podcast or not. The only thing that matters, at least to me, is when you get somebody that reaches out and says, hey, I heard what you guys discussed today, and it really helped. And thank you for that. Like, those are the moments that I live for that. And I'm very similar to you. I'm assuming that fitness is like a big part of your life still, you know, the exercise science degree. Fun fact: I went to UNF and I started an exercise science course, and then I kind of gave up halfway
Oh,
through
wow.
and switched to dancing. Yeah, but I've always been a huge fitness buff, and there's just something about going into the gym and seeing where you're at and understanding that you're not where you physically want to be, but you're mentally, it's almost like a callus. You're mentally creating a callus in your mind and understanding that you're going to have to go through immense amounts of pain in order to get to where you're going to go. And, that's something that like I've always I've had an affinity for. And, I started, I have a small little platform on Instagram, 24 hours in a day. And, I started posting videos of my workouts and just kind of doing motivational speaking and stuff like that. And a lot of my friends were like, bro, what are you doing? And this is the 220-pound version of myself. And just for context, I'm like 186.
Wow.
This is like the 200, version of myself, whatever. And all my friends are like, dude, who's going to really follow you? I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter if anyone follows me or not. Like, at the end of the day, this is just something that I enjoy doing, and I want to give encouragement to other people. And through that process, being able to get down to my goal weight, obviously. And I've had a handful of people, my buddy Darius. I've never and it's so funny. We can kind of discuss this as well. Like on social media, right? You can post something, and
Raleigh loves this kind of stuff. I'm just going to shout it out. Raleigh loves this conversation. And from our conversation on Instagram, you're about to open up a box that Raleigh's just going to dig in like a kid in a goodie box on a birthday. So here we go.
You can post this. You can post something, and you can get probably 50 likes. But the amount of people that actually saw it was like 2,000 people. But you only got 50 likes. And to me, that's always like a mind-blowing thing. This guy that never likes any of our material. He never comments nothing. But then one day reached out and said, hey, man, I've been watching the work that you've been doing on social media. And it's encouraged me so much so I've dropped 18 pounds. My hemoglobin, blood sugar is actually better. I went from a 6 down to like a 5, and I'm doing all around better and healthier. And I gave a lot of it in part 2. And I was like, well, honestly, I really didn't do anything. Like it took you actually getting a call to action and then actually committing to it. But it's amazing because I never really knew that you paid attention. And I say this to say that even if it's a small platform, a large platform, no matter what it is that you're doing, when you're doing this, people take notice. And whether or not you come into work or whether or not you cash it in, people take notice. And social media does a great job of highlighting that. Like you can get 50 likes, but then over 2,000 people see it, and you have no idea what your impact to those 2,000 people might actually be. And instead of it being somebody that actually likes your content, it could actually be somebody that just watching from afar and saying, you know what, I'm going to give it a try. I've thought about it, exercising and getting back into shape. I'm going to try to give it a try. I thought about trying to, be the best version of myself. What does that look like? I'm going to learn a new language. I'm going to start traveling, stuff like that. And those are the conversations that I live for, because you can measure likes, you can measure streams, you can measure all those things. But what you can never measure is the amount of impact that you have in someone's life. And that's something that, to me, is the most powerful thing that you can have.
Dropping bombs over there. You're killing it. I agree.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask you a question. So, what Adler's saying, Raleigh. Do you ever feel like your music has ever, when you first started writing music? I'm sure you've been writing music for a very long time, but when you first started, this was a very premature, new thing for you. we talked about the doubts, not to doubt, but to trust God. Did you feel like when you released your first album or your first single, whatever it is that your first record, right? Did you feel like yeah, that was yeah, this is it, and then it was just kind of like the feeling that Adler had, was like, is anything coming from this, or were you inspired by that, like the one or two people that said, hey, Raleigh, your music really is just amazing and it's inspirational, or did you just know, like, you're just no matter what happens, you're just going to continue down that path?
Oh man, I think I'm prone to discouragement. I'm an artist,
okay.
So I'm naturally introspective, but I think I've had so many. My wife is good about like talking to me about my wins. I've had some massive wins, like huge wins over the years, and she's always good at reminding me that. But I'll be the first to be like thinking that song that I just released should be going viral because it's great, but it's not. You know what I'm saying? So I think like when I first started, still with that young naivety, like I didn't know that very first song. I didn't have any idea if anyone would like it at all. It was called Kentucky Queen. It's not out anymore. It was about Shelby.
I was going to ask you just now. I was going to say, I was going to look it up real quick.
No, you can't. I took that joker off, man. Yeah. It was called Kentucky Queen. People still at shows and stuff. People still request it, which is hilarious to me. But I think it's an endearing song. I think it's an endearing song because it was one of the first songs I ever wrote, and it was kind of like, I think people like it because it was like, oh, that's an immature Raleigh, like that's him just trying to find his way, and
what was what was the story background, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, it was about my wife and just about how I loved her, about how she changed me, and about how she's not what I thought I was gonna end up with. I was dating a girl who was short and brown haired from Eastern Kentucky, and she was 5'10", curly blonde hair from Southern Kentucky. So just very, very, very different. And it's just kind of telling that story and about how I love her, just kind of a basic kind of country love song. But it's funny to look back on that song. I haven't thought about that song in years. So,
well, I noticed. I know that you're doing. I know you're doing. I saw you posted the other day. You're doing like a come to my home, like I'll come to your house and like perform. Like you're doing like a on the road at your house kind of like tour. Maybe the Best You Nation suggestion. Maybe you throw that song in for an extra, just to bring it back. Who knows? You never know. Bringing that song in. It's a what is that? A tribute song.
Yeah. Throwback.
It's back to your a little throwback collector's item. Yeah.
Vintage.
I actually was going to ask you questions, and this is actually kind of like off, but this is just curiosity. So you had mentioned earlier about like sitting on your kitchen floor, and you are staring at your guitar. Now that I look back at your album cover that you've recently released on 2 of your songs, is there a story behind your album art that relates to that sort of that that memory? Did you have any? Now that you say that, I'm kind of like, wait. Now I was actually counting the strings on the guitar to see if there was 5. And
there's not. It looked weird. So I just did 6.
Did you try it?
But it is that story, Scenes from a Six String is the album, and it's basically all of the journeys and ups and downs and highs and lows of doing this for a living and the things that you see behind the 6-string guitar. And it's really interesting. It's, that guitar, it's really interesting because at that point, the only thing left in the house was the guitar. And it was like, oh, that's all I got. There's no promises here. I got this guitar, and that was what was left. And so, the album art, all of that is really kind of telling that story, this journey up to now. I'm glad. I'm glad you caught that. That's cool.
I'm not okay. I won't be that guy. I'll be that guy right now that says I'm OCD, but I'm not really OCD. But I do pay attention to little details, and I think that, like, for me personally, I do. I'll notice those things. Like I'll notice now that you said that, I correlate A and B together.
Did you notice that
you're telling a story?
Did you notice that the shadows are on the wrong side of the strings?
No.
Like
now that you said that, I see it.
The sun is going in the wrong direction for where the shadows should be.
So the shadow's supposed to, yeah, I see it.
But anyways.
And there's like what is that? It's like an old yellow truck.
Yeah.
Like a truck.
Yep.
So what is the story behind that?
There's no story behind it.
You still have that
I just
truck?
like the way it looks.
Oh, just okay, cool. No, I pay attention to things like that. I don't know why. Even when I was listening to you did like this thing is really unique where you were doing things along the different cities.
Yep.
And I love that you had the skylines, and you have such a creative mind, and that's the beautiful thing. Like, I don't know, we always talk about this, like you need a right brain, left brain, and I think that I have come to a point in my life where I've appreciated being creative, but not to the point where I have to be able to be a musician, because I believe that I could write music, and maybe I can. I wrote a book, but it's not like music. It's not like the same. But I wanted to ask you a question, because I think this is something that, for me personally, it's more of a personal question. So this is completely up to you how you answer this question, because for me, because I've experienced, I mean, obviously the stories are a little different. Your journey starting off from the moment you were born, you were in a place where people would go, oh my gosh, it's jail, it's prison, whoa, right? So people have this negative outlook, which again, as we were talking about, positive, negative, you need a little bit of both. Look what happened. In people's eyes, jail, prison is a negative thing, but look what you are, a successful country musician who loves what he's doing, and he's beaten the odds. Like, right, that is the core part of who you are, whether you share it or you don't. However, like, again, however you want to share this next, like, your response to this question, it's something dear to me. So I wanted to ask you, so being adopted and you growing up in a household, like your parents that didn't birth you, right? Were there any traumas as a child, or like any struggles you had growing up that you had faced? And how did you, if you've overcome them, how did you overcome them? And are there things, and you don't have to answer this it's all on how you like to answer this, but have you overcome those struggles and traumas? Are you still going through them? Are you, have you embraced them, part of who you are today? Like, do you think your OCD is just from how you were as a child? Like, you just don't want to hit rock bottom anymore. You know what it's like. You want to continue to go up. Like, I just want to know from a place of your own, like, from a relation, like, hey, I've been there, like, in the situation. Do you feel like you had those traumas and struggles, and have you overcome them all, or are you still going through them? And how would you share that with somebody who's listening to this who may have not been adopted? I think that's my biggest point, is like, you don't have to be adopted or to be in a situation to not have trauma and struggle. I think everybody has those. It's just where I have a hard time explaining it. But coming from someone who's a creative mind, someone who's a musician, someone who does this every day and shares emotions, just wanted to ask you that question.
Yeah.
And like I said, answer it however you feel, wherever your heart feels like taking this.
Yeah.
Just like to know.
Yeah, man. I think I would have told you for a long time that I feel like I think I would have said my adoption hasn't affected me at all. I don't think about it. And that could have been because I was 4 days old. And honestly, like, both of my dad's 6'4", I'm 6'4", like, who raised me, like, they're both white. My brother was white. Like, I think there was some form of, like, just visual factors to it where it was like, I didn't necessarily think about it top of brain all the time.
Right.
But like, I think deep, maybe psychologically, my wife thinks it's like something that happens at childbirth. But being separated from your birth mother, my wife thinks that it does something to you.
It does.
It does something to you that maybe I couldn't even expressed for a long time. Now I did go, and I'm going to get to the real struggle that I think I still deal with. But I did get to meet my birth mother about 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. And that was a very interesting experience. I mean, it was a lovely experience because I got to thank her, and I mean, it would have been quite easy for her to abort me, and I'm really thankful she didn't. And you know, I wanted to thank, and it was a crazy experience because it was like, hey, Raleigh, like, what's your favorite color? Things like that. That was interesting. She became a friend to me. She didn't try to take my mom's spot. So that was an interesting. Anyways, all that to say, I think I struggle with knowing if I'm really loved, by God. Maybe I fear some form of abandonment. And ultimately, you know, not to always be the guy who's preaching, but like, I think ultimately a lot of healing has come from the fact that my Bible tells me that Jesus died for me regardless of my performance, regardless of how well I stay with him or how well I follow him, that he would never leave me, because it wasn't about my ability to not leave him, but he promised me that. So over time, I've certainly struggled with that, but I think it's gotten better over the years, but I never really connected it with the fact, or maybe I'm thinking of relationships before I met my wife. Like, I just had I think I was really insecure in relationships. Like, maybe I didn't know that they would last, or that that person wouldn't leave me. And I don't think I would have ever connected that to my adoption necessarily. But I think that's true. I think it's affected me more deeply than I know, even with all the positives of it, even with the fact that had I not been adopted, I wouldn't have had the family I had, who was awesome, who would have gotten me into music, who got me into sports, who made me go to Georgetown College because I had a football scholarship, who made me, and then at Georgetown College, I dated this girl who invited me to this campus ministry thing. I would have never gone to a campus ministry thing ever. Okay. And the only reason I went is because I fell in love with this girl. Okay. So God had all of this planned. And then that relationship went crazy. My whole life went down the tubes. I almost lost my football scholarship. My friend this is all the same week too. My friend had a knife to his throat at a party that I promoted a fight. We were just trying to fight each other. And that put me at rock bottom, to where for the first time the words of God made sense to me. Okay, so all of that to say, I wouldn't change a literal thing. And then that all culminating in me meeting my wife. You know, I would have this whole path. You know, I wouldn't change a thing. So that's where I think that's earlier you asked, how do I have a positive perspective? And it's directly around the fact that it is not all of everyone's story a redemptive story of God taking some form of darkness and turning it into I mean, at least that's been my story, you know, and I know that, and I know that tragic things can happen, and I know it always doesn't end up, quote, great for people, but I feel like that's ultimately God's redemptive story for everything. So that's my answer.
No, man, I appreciate it, man. No, and I'm glad. I thank you for being like open about it, because I know there's definitely a lot of people who are out there who, and including myself, like, yes, I used to think to myself, man, being adopted is the worst thing ever. I was adopted 9 months, and then, like, you know, I was raised by a family that, you know, I pretty much looked like them.
Yeah.
Right. So I can relate to that, but it's like there was a disconnect. That disconnect is that's a real thing, and that kind of. It's kind of the theme. I feel like we're talking about like this disconnect. Off air, we talked about people being disconnected and not really getting the full truth. And you talking about country music and how you are unique in your own way of writing and, you know, writing out your songs. And it's like what we do here and how we have the opportunity. You can either you can grow, or B, you don't grow. It's like there's that option. Like you had a choice, either A, you know what, screw it, we're not going anywhere, we're going to stay in this house. We got everything we want here. And you know what? If I I'm just not going to become a musician. I'll play guitar on Saturdays and Sundays at the church meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could have done that.
Yeah.
And still, you just don't know, but you went completely against the odds of, what it's like a lightning strike. Like, you did something, you walked by faith. And I think what I love the most about what you've shared today, like, honestly, is that God is the center. Your wife stands by you. You put God first, and everything about who you are, you want to be yourself. You don't try to be anybody that you're not, or you're trying to portray yourself as somebody you're trying to be. You're just being you. And I think that in itself is powerful, because you don't meet a lot of people anymore like that. You don't run into people that are like true to who they are or share. I mean, obviously we have things we don't want to open up right in the middle. Like, hey, there's this random guy at Target. I'm going to tell you all about who I am. It's more so like, hey, having a conversation and being able to dive into something that it's not just for the person who listens to country music. It's for the person who likes to listen to R&B, but realizes there's a message behind every person. Everyone has something to offer.
Yeah.
No matter what, it does not matter. We all have that redemptive story that God has for us.
Yep.
Okay. It kind of gave me goosebumps listening to you. Only for the fact that, like, a lot of times people take the traumas, they take the tragedies, they take all these bad things that happen in their life, and they just try to just stick it deep inside. They try to run from it. They try to hide from it. And it sounds to me like there's a form of acceptance that has come with your maturation process and going through everything. And we kind of discussed this off air as well. But there's just something to say about, like, being in a sad situation or a negative situation or a situation that, people would view as negative, right? And to watch how the story unfolds and to see how beautiful things have aligned themselves. Like, it's just beautiful chaos. Like, if like, that's just really what it is.
Yeah.
Like, there is nothing to say that you should have ever ended up where you're at, but through the way, like, it's almost like predestined, through the way that things have come and aligned themselves in your life, you've ended up exactly where you were meant to be at the moment you were meant to be at. Not any sooner, not any later. You're exactly where you need to be. And, that's something that's always given me a form of, like, peace, is knowing that, God allows you to God gives you your blessing when it's His time. Not when you think, hey, God, it's time. You should give me now. Give me. No. It doesn't work like that. He gives the blessing when He's ready for you, or He's ready for you to receive it. And I think that I guess, like, one of the things that, like, I'm just curious, just personally, like, when you have having your background the way that it's been. And I'm sure you've had tons of friends along the way. Have you ever had friends or people close to you that, you trust and love, they just, like, doubted your dream or doubted, like, your ability, or viewed it, like, you can view it as, like, why would you say that, like, about something? I just shared that. Like, I've been talking to Finn about this a lot, because you and I, you're 1 year older than me.
Okay.
You and I discussed it. Finn and I always discuss this. Like, you're not meant to share your dream with everybody, and you have to sometimes keep it tucked in here, because there's going to be too many people. Like, it's almost like you give them a license to
take you down,
give input, and you share. Exactly. And so you can't share it with everybody, and you got to be selective who you share it with. And so I'm just curious, like, at any point in time, was it any of your close friends or any of your colleagues that is like, man, you can't do man. Like man, go get a regular job or something to that.
Yeah. Specifically when you say that, there's one person that there's been, a few, but there's one guy who comes to mind, and I want to say 2015, 2016. So I had not moved to Nashville yet, but he was, I don't want to say what he was, but he did music of some level at some point for a living. And he told me, I played him a couple songs, and I told him I was going to go, I think I told him I was going to try out for American Idol. And I was going to, I think it was like starting to form in me that I wanted to do music even at that point. But he just told me I would never make it, that I wasn't good enough. That really hurt me. Because we were really close. He had helped me through some really dark, like at the time, I told y'all I have OCD, but after college, I went through a couple years of really, really extreme anxiety, like real bad. And he was one of the people who helped me through that, and was great at that, and helped me a lot. But when he told me that, I was really, really discouraged. But like I told y'all earlier, it's like, I'm very all or nothing, it's just the way I'm made. And I think honestly, if I'm being honest, there was part of me that was like, oh, I'm about to show him, you know what I'm saying? I think there was some of that. But I've since, that's fine. I don't like hold it over his head now. I don't even think about that anymore. But I mean, that that's an interesting point there, that sometimes you have to hold your dreams close. I mean, you really do need to have people who can speak into your life if you are off track. Like that's for sure.
Yes.
That's for sure important too. But like I feel like that's a small number of people who really know you, who really know your gifting, who really know what your desires are. You certainly shouldn't be listening to people on social media who half the people on social media are just jealous or angry that you might even try something, because maybe they had a dream that they're scared to try, or they,
it makes people uncomfortable.
The wise
when they
philosopher
see that
once said, haters gonna hate,
That's it.
No, and I mean, you're absolutely correct. Like, and the reason why I bring that up is just, Finn can attest to this. Finn, he's a paramedic. I'm sorry, EMT. He was going into, I know Finn was going in for school and everything. And I know that he had an immense amount of negativity that he was hearing from other people. Like, you can't do it. Just switch to something else. Just do whatever. And I remember,
why? I want to hear why.
Uh-huh. Well,
why?
Go ahead, Finn. This is your story.
Who told you couldn't do it, and why'd they tell you that?
So, there was a lot of people that I had gone to school with during EMT school. So, which is obviously, this was a younger version of me, but there is also, I don't want to sound defensive. I do want to be honest. I, like you, no, there's no names. I will say, like, I like validity. I do like getting validation for people that are, like you said, like your friend who discouraged you, even though you thought he was the one that's going to say, yeah, man, go do it.
Right.
When he helped you through your struggling moment. So for me, there were people that I thought sharing, hey, I'm going to go through this. I'm going to go become an EMT. That I got it was like backlash. It was a backlash. It was like, whoa, I was not expecting that from you. So I felt discouraged getting through EMT school. I got through it. It was more so when I was taking my national registry exam. It's a very difficult. I suck at taking tests. I get like test anxiety, and it's like, this is a statewide. Actually, this was a national wide test that is given, and it's a pass or fail there, and they don't tell you till like 3 days later. So you're like anxiety at the max. So people are like, yeah, I took it like, I'm going to openly say it. I took it 4 times, and that's a lot of times for a test.
Mhm.
Okay. But I even tell my EMT students all the time that come through the door, and I said, this is what you could do. You either take this as, oh my gosh, my instructor, my preceptor is trash, or you look at it as, this guy took this test 4 times and didn't give up, and he wanted that EMT that bad. There was a lot of, there was a time where I kind of just let it go. I took it once, took it twice, took it 3 times, and you have a year to take this test. And so by the 3rd time, I had to take a remediation course. It's a requirement for the state of Florida. They have to do that. I think it's everywhere, really. But it's a 24-hour class. It costs like $500, which in my pocket, I didn't have that to do that. So I had to figure out a way to do it legally. Don't worry. I just worked extra. It was really like, it was tough because they're like, no, it's not even worth it anymore. You've taken it 3 times. Like, you're going to be a terrible EMT anyways. It's just, I let it bother me because as a person who really doesn't trust a lot, I didn't trust a lot of people. And I stem it from my adoption and being in an orphanage for 9 months, the way that I was,
Sure.
My level of care wasn't great. So a lot of my trust issues, a lot of hearing it from people, I do like hearing it from people. But it's knowing when to cut off the water, cut off the electricity, say, nope, no more. It just, other people's opinions like give me something to think about sometimes. Like, it gives me a reason to go like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I can do that. Or no, you're probably not. So for me, I shut it down. I realized that too many people were involved in my decision-making of becoming an EMT or not. And I said, I cannot continue this. So I told Adler, and Adler gave me a reality check, said, dude, how much are you studying? Have you done anything to get closer to your goal? At first I was like, no, yeah, man, I'm doing everything I can. I was like, are you though? And I said, no. So the first thing I had to realize is, after cutting off like all the people that were telling me, no, you won't be able to do this, is actually facing myself. I have become, for a while, I was dependent on other people's thoughts and opinions and not having my own identity. And
that's
that was
from
part
adoption
of an insecurity.
too, for sure.
Yes.
Yep. I resonate with that.
I mean, I had an identity issue for sure for a long time. And I just realized, like, okay, I just need to take this and go and take it. And on my 4th try, so after taking the remediation course, by the way, I went and took this test again. I had taken Adler's advice. I studied my ASS off, and I walked out there, and I felt all right. I was a little nervous, but I was like, all right, I feel better about this time. And I prayed, and I asked God, I said, this isn't the last time I'm taking this. I said, this is the cutoff. If it's meant to be, I will walk out of here and I will know that it's a pass or a fail. And God, if you don't want me to be an EMT, he was the last, and this sounds horrible, he was the last resort. I said, you know what, this is the final. At the end of the day, I mean, it's a good and a bad thing. The good thing is I looked up to God and said, this is you. I prayed. I said, God, if this is meant to be, I'm going to be an EMT today. If not, I will go find something else to do. I'm capable. I walked out and I felt really good. I felt that warm feeling when I like pray, or when I just absorb in the word of God, and like I hear Christian music. When I have those moments, 2 days later, got the result. It was a pass. And I was just blown away by that, because I was like, just like, wow, if I would have continued down the path of listening to other people, right, I probably would have not pursued to become an EMT. And it all is really just to see if I wanted to go continue my growth in the medical field. I remember talking to Adler about that. So
yeah, I mean,
here I am today.
That's also a testimony of like what a good friend is, just like, in a way that isn't condemning someone, telling them, hey, have you done this, this, and this toward your goal? I mean, that's in a way that didn't make you feel like you were condemned, Finn. You know what I'm saying? That's a good friend. So good on you, Adler.
Oh yeah, thanks. I'm always like, I'm a process guy. It's like, all right. And this is why, like, I marvel at the fact you sold your house, you left comfort, and you went after. And it's the, like, the process, like even like with Finn, it's just like, all right, hey, how many questions are you studying? Like, how many questions are you taking every day? And whenever you take the questions, are you remediating? Are you reading what you went wrong? Are you understanding where the breakdown is? And that's always been like something that like, not always. I say that I learned that later on in life when I went through nursing school. And the reason why I even brought this topic up was when I was in nursing school. I remember in my early 20s in high school, you know, I was a partier. Like that's who I was. That's who I identified as. You know, hit up either on Friday, Saturday night, hang out, fun times. And once I started to kind of make my transition into like, all right, I need to grow up. I want to, you know, become a nurse. I heard a lot of people that I used to hang out with is, nah, man, you can't do that. It's, you know, whatever. And like, there's a guy I know went through nursing school, passed it, did the whole 9 yards, but just could never pass the test of the NCLEX. And so he just gave up on the dream altogether. And I remember, you know, him saying, hey, man, it's not worth it, all this stuff. And all throughout school, I was good up until about the last 2 or 3 courses. And those last two courses took a lot out of me. Like, I've never really struggled with confidence. Confidence has always been something that, like, you know, I have tenfolds of. And for the first time in my life,
you need to share.
Huh?
So you need to share it then.
Oh, I got you, man. Tons of it.
No, I'm not for me. I'm talking about everybody else out there in the world.
That was the first time in my life I actually experienced self-doubt. Like, I remember thinking to myself, am I smart enough? Am I am I, you know, and I started questioning everything. I started questioning my whole entire like identity, my fabric of who I am. And I remember I'm a son of 2 immigrants. My parents are both from Haiti. And both my parents, they moved over here. My mom came here much younger, but both of them had to learn English, go through courses, and study their butts off in order to get to where they're at today. And I remember expressing to my dad, I was like, Dad, I don't think I'm smart enough. I was like, smart enough? Do you speak English? It's like, yeah, but what's that got to do with anything? What are you talking about? And he's like, you speak English. You're smart enough. You're my son. I could do it. You can do it. Like, I came here to a country that wasn't meant for me. And especially like, you know, my parents came in a much different time than I'm being raised in, where just got out of Jim Crow laws, and, you know, Black people weren't afforded those type of opportunities. Right. And they came over from Haiti and they made their way.
Right.
And I remember, like, I think we were in the middle of the street in Boston at the time, like me and my dad. And he's just like, you're smart enough. You can do this. And like, at this point, like, you know, I'm like a grown man, like 25 years old, like 24 years old, actually. And I'm sobbing in the middle of the street. And he's just like, you can do this. You just got to keep going. You just got to push more. And so, you know, that's when I came up with like the process. It's like, all right, if it takes, it's kind of like, have you ever heard of David Goggins?
David Goggins, yes, the guy's crazy, trains like crazy.
Insane.
Yeah.
So there was something that I connected with him, like that he said on one of his books. He said, if it takes so-and-so 5 hours to get this information, it's going to take me 10. So I'm going to commit more time than other people and commit to this. And at the time when I was, I think I had the last semester, usually about 10 weeks for the course, because I was in an accelerated program. And the first 2 tests, like, I didn't perform well at all. And so at the time, my professor, which, you know, I could speak candidly, he wasn't my biggest fan. And he was just like, I think you need to withdraw. You're not going to pass my class, man. And, you know, based off of the words that I had with my dad, I was like, you know what? I understand what you're saying, sir. Respectfully, I disagree. I'm going to stay in this class. And he's like, do you understand? You have to get like an 85 and higher for every single test moving forward. And we took weekly tests. And I said, you know, I understand. I'm willing to do whatever I have to do in order to get through the class. And I remember I would do sit for 6 hours a day, 500 questions every single day. And I'm killing it. I'm doing every single day routinely, no matter it's 2 a.m. and I'm answering questions. My mom's like, hey, you need to get some sleep. No, chugging coffee. I got to commit to this. And I was able to score about like a 90 every single step of the way until I finished. I think I finished with like a 91% in the class, like from having like the first 2 like pretty bad. I remember just thinking to myself, like all the people that said I couldn't do it, all the self-doubt, everything, like I'm on the other side of this. And that was the best feeling in the world, because that moment right there has led to me being able to travel the country, work in Georgia, be in Illinois. I'm out in California right now. I never, that right there was the game changer for me. And even if you really just think about it, right? Just how destiny, like God just has a way of just aligning people. Finn was born in Russia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Russia, ended up in Germany, getting adopted. My parents from Haiti, we ended up in Florida. And if I did not pass that test, I wouldn't have been at Advent. If he hadn't been adopted by his parents, he wouldn't have ended up at Advent. And just to kind of see how worlds collide, even though it's chaotic, it's crazy, it's uncomfortable, it's sometimes negative, like things just come together so nicely sometimes. And I can look back on the journey and just marvel and just say, man, I'm very appreciative to be at this stage in life. And I'm appreciative of Finn, obviously, because, if it wasn't for him asking, I probably wouldn't have ever been on a platform like this. I've always expressed like, oh yeah, I definitely want to do something like this. But he got me out of my comfort zone in order for us to get here. And now, fast forward 3 years later, we're talking to you. And this is just like, it's a surreal moment just to kind of come in full circle. And I'm just thankful, like God has cleared a path. Yeah. And no matter how uncertain or how hazy the path has been along the way, we're exactly where we need to be at and the time that we need to be at and experiencing the success that we need to have.
Yeah. And the thing that sticks out to me in that story is the positive words of your father. That really sticks out to me because, bro, what if you didn't have a dad that looked at you and said, son, I'm proud of you and you're smart enough and you can do this, and pushed you. Not in a way that, once again, I keep coming back to, not in a way that was disapproving, but he said, son, I expect you can do it. You know what I'm saying? And in a way that's manly, in a way that's affirming. That we underestimate the power of a father's positive affirmation. You know what I'm saying? I can't imagine the struggles of a harsh or disapproving father would be really tough. That's a whole nother gambit. That's a whole nother thing. But anyways, that's what stood out to me from what you just said.
No, hey, and it's been a surreal moment, and I have to say, obviously we're going to kind of wrap up here. I have to say that I have to give Finn a lot of credit, because without Finn, reaching out to you, this wouldn't have been possible at all. And like Finn does a thing where he just consistently tags people, and then he'll just kind of like message every now and again. Yeah. And to some people, it isn't. It is annoying. Kind of annoying, but there's a beauty in it, because it just shows Finn's persistence.
Yeah, dude, that's your secret sauce, man. You took the test. Yeah. You took the test 4 times. Like that's a gift. Lean into it, dude. Lean into it.
Yes, for sure.
I will say that I'm beyond grateful that we were able to connect. Honestly, I don't want this to be an open door, closed door kind of thing.
Sure.
I think it would be awesome to, who knows what the future sets. I would be really cool actually to like get together in person at some point in the near whatever. But it's just, it is, I appreciate the kind words about being persistent. I think it is like one thing I do. I tag a lot of people that, especially like some of the people that have inspired me. Also I do it with purpose. Like, you know, if we're doing something with you, obviously we want to make sure people know, like, it's just, I don't know. I'm not very good with the algorithm stuff. I just like think I do, but I don't. Who knows? But my fiance always gets on me for this. Cause like, she's like, there's no way she's not doubting it. It's just like, dude, you set your bar so high, it frustrates her, but she loves it. Like she hates it, but she loves it. She's like we went to One Republic, a concert, and I was a little unrealistic. I was like, yeah, Ryan Tedder's going to jump right off that thing. And he's going to come right. We were the second row, like to the stage. So we were like right there.
Yeah.
She's like, he's not going to jump off the stage and come high five you, but Need to Breathe.
Yeah.
The lead singer, he did. He came down and he came walking around high fiving everybody right by me and my fiance. But it's just,
Squeaky
Adler disappeared for a
squeaky
second.
wheel gets the grease, man.
Yeah. So,
that's what that reminds me.
Adler, you still there?
I did a cover. I did 2 covers. I did a James Taylor cover and I did a Billy Joel cover. And I tagged them both in it, and they both shared it on their freaking Instagrams. I was like, this is wild.
Well, yeah, man. I mean, and I read your bio. You've done some work with some really awesome people. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want you to stop. We would, you know, having you here was honestly, it was such an awesome opportunity to like connect with somebody who has a great story. And I don't want this to be our first time. I'd love to have you back on our show. I think that would be, you know, or even come out to wherever you're at in Kentucky, Tennessee, wherever you're going to be. I think it would be really neat to meet up in person.
Yeah, man, that'd be great.
I just think that, you know, so
That'd be lovely, man. But yeah, next, if y'all ever come to Nashville, hit me up.
Yeah,
yes,
definitely. I think I should probably be on the East Coast at some point, like in the summer.
Cool.
So hopefully, maybe we can connect. And Finn, don't you have something that you want to show them real quick?
I do. So we have this for you. We have a shirt for you.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of holding it weird, but hold on. I'm not Target. I'm not good at I'm not a clothes hanger, but yeah, we have a Best You Nation shirt
nice,
for you, man.
Heck yeah.
Also want to give you a copy of my book.
Do it.
I'd like to give you a copy of my book. We'll get with you kind of off air to talk more about how we get this.
Yeah.
But we're just honestly beyond grateful and thankful that you took time out of your day, joined us, and just being the human that you are, being the person that you are, the man that you are, the leader of your pack, and being the person that you are. It's inspiring, man. It's really nice to know there's other people out there. You don't have to have a podcast to be inspirational. You don't even have to have anything. You're just being you.
Right.
We're just getting an opportunity to collaborate and share it and pretty much maximize the opportunity to inspire people globally, locally, however you want to look at it.
Yeah, man.
And I will say, I have openly confessed to you and to the people on the Best You Nation. I'm not the biggest country music fan. I've heard a handful of songs, and I know a little bit. But now you're on my radar, so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing your success. And just keep working, man. Just keep doing exactly what you're doing. Don't stop. And dream big and keep going. And most importantly, if there's one thing you can pull from this whole entire podcast episode, this dialogue, everybody who's listening, go out there and just go for it. Just go for your dream, whatever it is, whether you have the support or not. Just go for it, because you never know what can happen if you work hard and you set out for your dreams. But that being said, we are the Best You Nation. We are your weekly dose of positivity. And you can definitely check us out every Monday, usually around 5:30. Follow us out on Instagram. Actually, what's your Instagram so you can let the people know?
Yeah, it's just at Raleigh Keegan.
Raleigh Keegan. See, simple. I'm at 24 hours in a day. Finn, the Finn Foster.
Yeah, I can't have my own name. I have to put the in front of it.
The Finn Foster.
Someone already has my name, so it's like, oh, okay.
Yep.
Definitely check out our content on Instagram and YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you can get a podcast, and also started a TikTok 24 hours in a day as well. We appreciate you guys for listening and tuning in. We love you.
Make sure to go check out Riley's music too. You need to go
Apple.
business. Apple and Spotify. What's like your main platform you like to use?
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Everywhere you want to listen to music.
And he has a pretty cool website that kind of gives a backstory of like who he is as well. So definitely check it out. We appreciate you. Love you. Tune in for the next episode. Peace.
Peace out.